Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I also rise to speak on the future Made in Australia bill, and I did listen. I did listen carefully to the member for Hunter over there. He's a good bloke. He is a good bloke, and we should try and work together. And we do work together a lot in this place. I think the general public wouldn't understand how much we work together. They see the contest and they see us getting stuck into each other, and they think that's all that happens here. But the vast majority of work we do, we work together. And I'm on a committee with the member for Hunter, and we work together well. But sorry, mate. But I do rise to speak on this bill, and to speak in opposition of this bill and the policy in general. It does come with a fantastic name, I'll give it that. You'd fall in love with the name very easily, the future Made in Australia bill. And I think that's what the Labor Party marketing people had in mind when they concocted it. But it's just unfortunate that it doesn't actually correlate with the content of the bill, which is a bill that is designed to expand the role of the Export Finance Australia and Australian Renewable Energy Agency and establish a national interest framework that retrospectively underpins the government's future Made in Australia policy. That sounds wonderful. And I had a good read of the explanatory memorandum and some of the bill, and I can say that I totally disagree with the premise here, and that is that we're going to be creating manufacturing jobs by subsidising businesses that are not profitable or viable in the hope that one day they will be. In that explanatory memorandum, there was a few things that jumped out at me, but one of them was a phrase. It was the green premium. The green premium. And that's the extra money you have to pay for some of these technologies that can't be produced at the same price as what we do with conventional methods now. I don't remember the green premium being mentioned before the last election by the Prime Minister, and I suspect that the Australian punter, when they find out what the green premium actually is going to run away from it very quickly, because what it'll mean is, if they think the cost of living crisis that they're in now is bad, well, it's going nowhere with your green premium. It's around to stay. And we will all be paying extra for this absolute fantasy that the Labor Party is involving Australians in with their extraordinarily damaging rush to renewables, to 70% renewables by 2030. It's really quite frightening. We already manufacture a lot of good things in Australia and in Wide Bay. Indeed, under the Regional Growth Fund that the Coalition had, we supported business. We put out an expression of interest for all businesses, all ideas that might be viable and create jobs in the regions to come forward and put their business case in and show us how they could develop with a bit of support and be viable straight away. And one of the great success stories there was Rheinmetall, now currently making high-tech 150mm munitions shells that are being purchased all around the world. They've created 100 jobs in Maryborough, and that's what you need to do. You need to look at things, apply general, normal, competent economic standards and say that's a winner, that's going to create jobs, let's invest in it. But this policy, what it does, it picks the winners based on an ideology and based on big government and based on government telling business what they need to make even though they are unviable, and subsidising it with taxpayers' money to the tune of something like $22 billion this policy is going to cost. That's $22 billion that effectively we are going to waste in an international market where we trade with other economies. This is just pie in the sky. It is complete and utter pie in the sky. But what adds insult to injury is that this is happening in the middle of a cost of living crisis. When people are absolutely finding it so difficult to pay the general bills, you know, they've really got to think about how they're going to put those dollars together to afford to send the kids on an excursion, or even to let the kids have a tuck shop for a couple of times a week if that's what they want. They really have to think about it. And the government is not focused on fixing those problems. They're focused on this ideological mission that is going to harm us. And, you know, the idea that our current inflation crisis, which is, you know, seeing us as at the very back of the G10 nations in terms of recovering from anything that could be blamed on COVID, it is quite extraordinary. It's homegrown. Even the governor of the Reserve Bank has clearly articulated that this is a spending problem and it is homegrown. You can only blame Vladimir Putin for so long. But under Labor, we've seen extraordinary increases in prices for families, for businesses. People are paying more income tax. The level of income tax is up 20%. Real wages for employees have actually collapsed in this time, while Labor's policies have forced prices up. It really is the stuff of nightmares. This government is so taken up by its ideological mission to decarbonise Australia with 58 million solar panels and thousands of wind turbines. They've forgotten the job at hand, which is actually getting the settings right so Australian families can afford to live. They can spruik on as much as they like about subsidising high electricity prices. You've got to create the fundamentals, create the environment where those prices aren't high, and that's what they're not doing. They're having the opposite effect. Their policies are driving prices up. Electricity prices are up 20%. It's, you know, they are completely and utterly neglecting the primary job of a government, and that's looking after Australians. The other element to this is, what could we do to help business? What could we do without this interventionist big government approach that the Albanese government has taken on? Well, the first thing we could do would be to work on bringing electricity prices down, not subsidise them, work on bringing them down, because it's not only families that are paying some of the highest electricity prices in Australia, it's businesses. And that is a big disincentive for people setting up in Australia. One thing we've traditionally benefited from in Australia has been cheap and consistent electricity. Well, that's what we need. That needs to be the first order of priority, not decarbonising. We need to be looking at how we can extend the life of our coal-fired power, how we can get more gas into the system, and use those traditional methods of providing electricity to industry and families to make sure that we're strong up until the time that we transition over to a reliable, emissions-free nuclear, if emissions-free is what the people want. If we don't get these settings right, if we don't get it so as we can provide confidence and cheap electricity for business, we're going to see more foreclosures. We're going to see insolvencies continue at a rate that we already have. 19,000 businesses have become insolvent since Labor came to power. That's a record number of businesses since ASIC began collecting the data. I mean, this tells a story. We've got an inflation crisis that is caused by government spending. This bill seeks to spend more money. That inflation crisis is hurting Australians with a cost of living crisis, with interest rates and the cost of living generally going up. And this government is not addressing that. It's going down this path of ideological madness to continue on a path that will hurt Australians. The bill is one that has been not only criticised by the coalition, and getting back to a point from my friend, from the member for Hunter about cooperation. This isn't just the coalition coming forward and trying to take this bill apart. This is also people in industry. It's actually government officials that have warned against this. Bureaucrats from Treasury, the Productivity Commission has also criticised not only the program but has warned that some of the already announced programs to do with making solar panels and the QSI quantum project that was announced by the government, they should be subject to a stricter national interest test. Now, how this national interest test or this framework it will actually apply is a little bit vague, really, and that brings the next counter point, or the next point against this bill, and that is this is just an absolute opportunity for pork barrelling and an abuse of public funds by a minister. This gives a minister, under these very vague terms, the opportunity to write a cheque for up to nearly $4 billion in an election term, where they want, when they want and how they want. Now, that's not good. And I heard the member for Indi, who sits on the National Anti-Corruption Commission committee with myself and the member for Menzies, highlight some concerns about that and the way that will be applied. And I share her concerns there. I do share her concerns. This is not a policy that withstands rigour, not a policy that withstands rigour at all. What we need to do is we need to ensure that we're bringing inflation down. We need to stop the mindless overspending of taxpayer money. That's what we need to do first. We can do that by knocking on the head absolute mad policies like the providing tax credit, billions of dollars to billionaires. That's a good starting point. We need to stop the red and green tape and the over-regulation that this Albanese government has inflicted upon business, so as business can get about doing what they do, as opposed to having to comply with all sorts of crazy environmental and bureaucratic red tape, and get invested in and encourage our gas and minerals, our industries that have been great industries and helped build our nation. We need to encourage them. We need to fix the industrial relations system that the Labor Party have inflicted upon business. We heard the member previous to me speak about the ability for the CFMEU to come into workplaces around the country on demand for no reason, even if there are no members. They're the sorts of things we need to fix. We need to let small businesses, the 2.5 million small businesses, give them a clear definition of what a casual worker is. That would be a great start. But this bill fails at every level. This bill is big government. It is about subsidising industries that are not viable, and it's a complete and utter waste of taxpayers' money.
thank the